Looks like we're on the air. Good afternoon and good evening to all of you. It was a pleasure to retain my title as the host of this podcast when I started talking today, and that's neither here nor there. That's neither there nor here. Just enough with the entertainment, enough with this smart talking, enough with the fast, well-paced speech as if I always have something to say in every moment, because this is unrealistic to act like you have something to say in every moment. How does it play out in regular life? Are you always persistently... I'm just saying, if this was to replicate a conversation, what are we doing? What are we doing, folks? My window is open today. If I so much as hear one mouthy bird, then window's getting closed. But let's talk today about some topic, but I'm just saying the efficient, like, oh, I always have this to say at this moment. Most of the things I would say in a completely stream of consciousness would be boring, but I'm recording myself in such a way to like come up with, okay, this sentence has to be interesting and this sentence has to be interesting, and which is beside the point. Like, if you're already good enough at speaking, there is people that don't have anything interesting to say, and I become somebody who doesn't have anything interesting to say when I try to speak in their terms. It's not my fault that there's so many boring people on the earth, but I become boring in a world where everybody is meant to be made the same as everybody else. In a society that's like, okay, you gotta be boring. I come across as very boring because everybody else gets to be interesting from my perspective. If I make myself boring, it's like, I could fight all day to be like, I'm not boring. I'm boring. Because people will tell me that sometimes, that I'm boring. And I think it's just like, oh, we got some mouthy birds. I don't trust animals anymore. I don't trust them. I think that they are conspiring against me. You don't know if the birds in the forest want me to not be distracted for 30 minutes, and then they coordinate an attack to thwart my attempts at a successful and happy life. These are the kinds of things you got to watch out for all the time, because you snooze for a moment and you're sniped in the head. Now, I'll just leave it open because it adds to the atmosphere. As it turns out, that bird was trying to help me out. But this is just how natural I am and how organic I am, is that when I walk into a place, it's basically like there's flora and fauna, sounds and smells all around me, because people can't get over just how natural my presence is. But what I'm saying is, so people will say that to me, like, that you're boring. Good. I am boring. I am boring, but not all the time. But I'm boring for other people. But it's because we got this world that's all about all kinds of shit. But we got this world of people that's like, oh, you gotta give respect to get it. For sure. You gotta give respect to get it. And let me just stop for a moment. Let me stop for a moment and stop trying to be right. Because there's no right way of doing it. But like, it's what I'm trying to say is that, why do you gotta give respect to get it? Respect, who's that for? And one day I'll get over that I'm being recorded. One day I'll get past that. And I won't have to think in my head. I won't have to analyze that. No, I'm being recorded. I have to say the right things. But it's saying the right things that makes me boring. It's saying the right things that makes you boring, trying to be right. Because you speak in everybody else's terms, you try to say what they want to hear. Then all that you come across is as boring, because you're saying everything kosher, and like everything you say is expected, when you try to appeal to everybody all the time enough to just speak in terms that they're like, oh, that's acceptable. And like, people command respect or they don't. It's not this matter of well, you have to give respect to get it, because you have to share respect. Like, you have to appreciate other people before you can be appreciated. And that's not true. That's just a social construct perpetrated by the people who deserve respect the least. Like, people who can't get respect impress these ideas on society. The people that suck the most and need to take on arbitrary authorities to prove to themselves that they deserve authority, or they deserve to be interesting, they deserve to be spoken to. People that think that everybody deserves the same amount of attention across the board perpetrate this myth that you have to give respect to get it. Because the truth is, there are people that command respect and there are people that don't. I don't have to care about anything you did to dress up the place you live in. Like, it's not my fault if I walk into the place you live in and I don't give a shit about any of the artifacts that you organized in a certain way to tell me that you lived, fill in this kind of life, fill in the blank, this story, this is a reflection of my background. Like, you can't buy respect. You can't buy a bunch of artifacts and put them in your apartment and be like, oh, this is my special life that I live. This is my dog that I named this because I deserve respect now because of the things I bought, because of the special story that I've lived in life. I don't think it works that way, because what always results, like ultimately, the people who get the most respect are the people that have the greatest presence in a place. Like, if you have the most presence, you get the most respect. So there are people that are already more deserving of respect. But we have to organize society in such a way so everybody gets a participation trophy. But this has been going on for decades, like probably forever, probably for 500 years, that rather than allow the people to just stand up who are deserving of the most respect, we have to construct these titles for people to make sure that, oh, now everybody has a title. But any title and identity that you have is something that you bought. But it's something that you bought and you can't buy respect, like, and it's tough that it doesn't work that way, that like, it's not like everybody is very intelligent. It's not like everybody is intelligent, but the world likes to try to play out like, okay, everybody has the opportunity to be more intelligent than anybody else at any given moment because we're all equal. And it's all like anybody could be anybody, rather than that people inherently are things. Because everybody has to be equal, because society, because socially, we are all equal and we're all doing things for the good of whatever. And we're all good for whatever the good is that we need to be good about, because we're all good. And we're all participating and we're all good. And don't go out of the good to be like, oh, I'm bad, because if you're bad, what do you need to do to be good? So that you can stop being bad, so you can stop being a point of fascination more so than you deserve to be, because there's nothing to be deserved. Like, this is what you say, you kill respect with this. You kill respect with, you get respect to get it. When the truth is, respect varies person to person. That's what respect does. I don't respect things. There's nothing that people can do to convince me that I should respect their title, even if it's one that's presumably more worthy of respect. What are you gonna do to? What are you gonna do to convince me that your title is worthy of respect? Rather than, like, you could beat me up, but that's not how society plays out ever. We don't allow it to come to that. You could you could beat me to death, to near death, and it's like, I don't know that would change anything. It would make me respect you for having beaten me half to death. Like, but not for the title you want me to respect you for, because it varies person to person. I'm not going to respect, like, I will respect some things and not respect others, and then another person different from me might respect the things that I didn't, because you're not because people, you can't make somebody like you for something when they're not like you, when they wouldn't like that naturally, because partially it is because they're not like you. But respect varies person to person, and enough with having to appreciate everybody for the sake of appreciation. And let me tell you a little thing or two about appreciation. And I think it's a great word. I use it all the time. I appreciate what you did. But what's kind of interesting, if you think about it, is that with appreciation, what's going on is that there's some counterflow of depreciation happening somewhere. So it's like, if you say something to me like, "Oh, I appreciate what you did." What am I getting at? Or if like, "Oh, you compliment me and I'm like, I appreciate it." Then what is being depreciated? Let me think about that while I'm being on camera. It's like, what would be, like, there's something being depreciated, which is something like, yes, I understand that I'm worthy of a compliment. Like, I appreciate, because appreciation is a upward tendency rather than a downward one. Like, I am treating this compliment with increasingness. Like, I appreciate it. Like, it's on the up and up, whatever you're saying. I increase but it's like, I increase what you say. Meaning that you don't even know the extent of how worthy of that compliment I am. Like, you're not even going far enough. Don't even give me that compliment, because you don't know it. Like, I will take it to where it needs to be. I appreciate that. Like, I get what you're saying, but it's not as good as you're saying, because it's better than what you're saying, because I know how good it is. I appreciate that you're coming at me to try to tell me that you like it, but you don't like it as much as you should. But nobody's gonna like it as much as they should, because you're the only one who likes the thing you do that much. Like, you're the only one who does. I'm the only one who likes the things I do as much as I do, and then I wish everybody else liked them just as much. But they don't. So then they compliment me rather than being like, "Oh, are you trying to insult me?" You say, "I appreciate it," because there's no way they like what you did as much as you do. So what is being depreciated is, it's like you're making up for the gap between, like, the person that's giving you a compliment and then you receiving a compliment. You're like, I'm making up for the gap that you missed, where you're like, I gave you this compliment because you didn't go the full mile to tell me whatever. But also, like, if they went the full mile, then that means that they're, like, defining you to that thing. Like, if you accept a full compliment, like a full definition of your work, where somebody's like, "Oh, you did this and this and this," like, you have to appreciate it. You can't accept it like, "Oh, yay," because then you're accepting love into your life. And watch out for the evils of love. And one of the foundations of this podcast is the evils of love, the prevalence of this pervasive, horrific idea known as love, that just sedates everybody into a relatively more meaningless existence. Oh, except because if you accept that compliment rather than stating back, like, "Okay, guy, thanks for your compliment, but I appreciate it. I will take it from here to make it known that what you said in the air in front of me today, those words will be made better so that they weren't as shitty as what they were when you said them." Because they're relatively more shitty than they should have been, seeing as that my work was actually this, but you aren't able to. But if you concede that they totally encompassed your work with the comments they made, then you're not that great of an artist. Then other people can define your work. If you're like, "Okay, that was me. That's it. Then would you want to be consumed by somebody else's opinion? Do you want to be in somebody else's plan? But, 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 a but, two butts, three butts, four butts, what? Five, six butts, yeah. Then I got to seven butts. I said, what? God's with us today. God's really with us. He's very free. He frees me. God made me know that to never accept a compliment because you have to appreciate it. So it's like what's being depreciated is what you like when you give a compliment. When someone gives a compliment to me, I appreciate it. What's being depreciated is the other person's words. Like, because when they first said it, it was up here, but then I'm like, oh no, it should be higher. It should be up here, and so there's this gap. And what is depreciated is what was originally said is no longer has the value of being the highest way of looking at it. It's kind of like now there's this other perspective of the words that is like, I'm going to make those words better because I know that you're trying to do the right thing to tell me that I'm good at what I do. And that's the way that works. We're 16 minutes in, but like, so I gotta be boring sometimes for other people, and then it comes out. I mean, as long as it's the case that everybody has to be boring, then I hear everybody else's thing, and then they're like, because I know that the name of the game is just to be boring in certain environments, not all of them. So then it would be the case that I would be the boring one. I forget what I was going to say. But we're all good. You got to do the good thing. You got to be good and be good. But it's like then I always will be coming across as this nice, polite man. Like a polite man. There's nothing quite like a polite man. Psych. Psych, a polite man's a dyke. That's all I got. I apologize. I appreciate what I said. You know, it should have been better, and I appreciate it. I appreciate what I said, though, and it's appreciating and it's getting better because the way I meant to say it, I meant to come out with something better than that, something that sounded more extraordinary. And so if you would appreciate what I'm saying now later on so that it increases in value as time goes on, I increase in value the thing that you said. Because it's because it's not very valuable the way that you said it. What else could you possibly mean when you're saying I appreciate what you did, but that it's not good enough because it needs to be appreciated. So it's like it's kind of a fuck you to say I appreciate what you did, but it's totally worth it. It's totally worth it if you're in the business of having your shit more appreciated than what it stands as, because there's the plain way that something comes across in the world, and that plain way is me as a boring, polite man. Hi, I am a polite man. Polite in policy. Because I follow policy, I'm polite. I follow the policies of society that tell me that there are not extraordinary things to be said in this regular environment, especially something like a dog park, where the environment is definitive of dogs. And so the humanity is already taken out of the situation in something like a dog park, because where you are, the reality of your situation is, this is all about the dogs. And that's what you talk about in a dog park. You talk about your dog and each other's dogs, so that the humanity is taken out of the situation. Because people like dogs for that reason, that they're like, oh, humans suck. Dogs are great because they focus us more on this dog-centric reality that lets us escape from this human reality about money and success. Dogs. And it really is that way because a dog is an incredible waste of time. And time is money. And because the reason I like a dog is because I see a dog, I'm like, I want to pet the dog. And there's nothing more time wasting and frivolous than that. It's just like, yeah, pet the dog. But it's a waste of time. You're never accomplishing anything any time you're spending with a dog. Dogs are an incredible waste of time, and they get you out of the world where you need to acknowledge times and points of reference that are making use of time. So, and why is time money? Because this is the Currency Podcast. And currency is like a bridge between time and money, as I mentioned. But life plays out in these ways. So I went 20 minutes, and I can cut it off here because I don't need to do an hour. No more restrictions. The pervasiveness of love, the evils of love. Watch out for what love is doing in your life. You don't know if love is going to persist, it's going to break through. It's like you accept another person's love sometimes often means you're just accepting you're just accepting the narrative that they're putting out for you to some extent. And so it's not like every girl wants to be with me, because if there's no storyline to follow, and I don't necessarily respect storylines, I'm just explaining my situation. But it's like, it's not, but don't you aim to be somebody who doesn't respect other people? Like, girls like a sinner. These struggles are mine. These words are my own. From my heart flow. I love you, I love you, I love you. Natasha Bedingfield, the king of songwriting songs. Sheeta King. Oh, Sheeta King. She writes all kinds of songs about my words from this is the irony of me trying to write this song, is that I'm putting it together right now, but I needed to find the words. But I needed to find them, and I lost myself in the process. She the best. We the best music. We the best music. We the least best music. We the most we're relatively influential. Follow us on Instagram based on that our music is decent enough that it's worth a follow, right? Or that at least that good of music. And taste and see that the Lord is good, of course. And you know what? Follow me on Instagram. Take a snap like a pic. So what I'm saying is, you have to be romantic for some girls, not all of them. It's just like there's a lot of girls that want you to follow. There's like, oh, I don't know what storyline. Because at the end of the day, I am following some storyline. It's just that most people think that whatever storyline I'm following is like way below their intelligence or something like that. But it's just more that like I'm not recognizing a storyline. I don't go into romance enough because it's like some people just want a romance thing. But a romance thing, like, do I need to go into the narrative of us as a couple, the narrative of our relationship, the story of it, the story of us together, that I really don't care about. But at some point I do care about it. So like I meet a girl that it's just like most people don't have a very high capacity for love. That's maybe more it. My capacity for love is too high. So that I'm not going to be a part in other people's narratives and romances very often. Like I'm in the 99.9% percentile for like my tolerance for romances. Like I do not tolerate them. I'm not contagious to romance. At some point I am, but it's just like too much. Like there are too many narratives that I'm like, that's shit. I don't care about the artifacts in your place. I don't care about the things you say you are. And this happens automatically. It's not my fault that automatically I would hear all the things you have to say to me and I'm not interested by any of them. That doesn't give you the right to be like, oh, you're boring. When you're the one that's boring, when you're the one that isn't coming up with anything, it's not my fault that automatically I don't care about things that people say and I don't even hear it. Like, you have to say something interesting for me to hear it. I don't listen to a lot of things. I really don't. And the people who don't listen to lots of things, that's just like you have attention deficit disorder. You have a disorder because you're not contagious enough to people's influences. You have to listen to really low level of influence people. You have to tolerate people's bullshit stories, even if they're the boringest thing ever. And if you don't, you have a disorder because you don't listen. This world is horseshit. That's the point that I'm making. In a number of ways, in a number of veins, in a number of avenues. White person problems, probably. For me. White guy problems. Something like that. We're all with our white person problems if we're a white person. But don't make it about race either. Who's white and who's black anyway? Who is white? And you can't be colorblind. You have to recognize anytime somebody is a slightly different shade of color, or else you're a racist. That's what liberals push on the world. Like, well, you actually have to see it when they're black. Otherwise, you're racist. You have to acknowledge it. You have to take the time to recognize that you're in a reality where there are black people. So you have to fixate, analyze on it. You have to meditate on it. You have to pray over it. You have to let it seep into you so that it's something that becomes this point of fascination at all times. Otherwise, you're a racist. So like, that idea is out there. Is that really what determines you to be a racist? Is that you're somebody who doesn't acknowledge it every time? But when you live in an America that constantly, persistently says everybody has to be involved in the drama of race every minute of every day because we are this racist nation and we are racist in these ways, but that they effectively communicate this to all of us. You can't govern without the consent of the governed. And so the governed take it upon themselves to be like, yeah, we are a racist nation. And as a result, like, the fact that the media is able to make so much money off of the race narrative just proves that America is racist, because the governed are like, yeah, we are still racist. Let's be a country that's always trying to overcome race. But that's something that's a way that we want to identify ourselves in the world. And that's something that the rest of the world sees. Like, people from other countries will bring up that, like, if you ask them in interviews, like, oh, what do you think about going to America or visiting America? They'll be like, oh, we're kind of worried about the race issues. We're kind of worried about the gun violence, because that is what is publicized. And because this is a way that America wants to identify itself to the rest of the world, because they're like, the drama of race is how we define ourselves. We are the country that take on this coexistence more than any other country. And so we are that, of course. Of course, the drama of race is part of who we are. And that's life. That's life for you. We're all here saying things. I could go away. Now I'm at 28 minutes. I'm just very burdened with so many burdens, so many things. But that I have to respect somebody when respect varies person to person, and not everybody is putting out into the world that they deserve respect or are even naturally able to be like, you should respect me. And that's unfortunate that not everybody deserves the same level of respect, but so it doesn't mean that so people get into power. The people that get into power that have arbitrary authoritative titles are the people most concerned with arbitrary titles that they are going to try to continue to enforce on the rest of the world, that we should carry out our lives in terms of titles, rather than let characteristics inherent within people dictate how things go, rather than let people work it out amongst themselves based on who they are. We need to put people in certain boxes so that we know where they go, rather than let anarchy ensue. Why not anarchy? More anarchy for our country, for our lives, for our loved ones, for our families. Anarchy, please. Anarchy to some extent. I don't ask people to respect me for a title. I mean, but this is just the kind of person that I am, though. Is that bird was getting very mouthy. We're getting two at one with nature. We need to be divided from nature. I need to organize myself in a box apart from nature, the one that I'm already in, that I already did, that I already took, that I'm already doing this. I'm already in this house box. And so that I can prove to everybody in the world that I'm separate from them at all times. This separation is how it was meant to be. Let us be separated. But like, this is the kind of person that I am, and other people would see that as superficial, that I'm not taking the time to make sure my identity is centered in identities and authorities. Like, this is the kind of person I am. I don't decorate my apartment. I'm not motivated to, because I don't expect somebody to hear something I said, hear about something I did, or some title that I gained over a 5-year period, something that I have in my background. I don't expect them to hear that and be like, oh, I respect you. Because I think that that's more rational. To not expect respect, like, for having done, because it varies person to person. The person you're talking to doesn't necessarily respect you for that. And so then it's futile, if you ask me, or it's just not efficient to go about things that I'm selling myself through these titles. Probably is maybe part of it. But whatever it is, whatever results, I am not decorating my apartment with artifacts that I want to prove to the rest of the world that I am important because I bought this, because I have these things. But it's not like everybody, it's not like people do that just to prove that they're someone. You decorate your apartment with what you want, obviously. It's just that I think that respect is kind of the social construct, and respect is a great thing. It's just that if we have to carry out our relationship to respect in this more socially constructed way, and it's constructed because of phrases like, you have to give respect to get it, because this is the rule, because there are rules. There is structure for how, there are pathways for respect to go down. Respect works in this way, as if people have the ultimate authority over respect. Like, these are the pathways respect goes down, flows down here, and then it bounces back to you this way, because this is how respect works, as if it doesn't vary person to person. So if people get to say what respect is for all people, respect happens this way, this structure, you have to follow the rules of the game in order to get it. When it's the people who don't get respect that are going to manipulate everybody into being like, well, you have to do this because I followed the rules, and that's the only thing I can do to get them is organize people into these. But organize whatever, so that respect is reduced to this finite thing, so that it's reduced to something more controllable to you as a person. To an individual person can control it more as long as you reduce it to a set of rules. Like, this respect, are you giving respect? But if you have rules for respect, it doesn't have to be give it to get it. You probably are just like, they have to do this or else I'm not giving respect. There's like probably a lot of that going on too. But it's not my fault people are withholding of respect because they think they deserve it when they don't. But we live in a world where everybody's selling people who don't deserve respect on that they deserve it. And so they're not thinking anything besides, oh, well, I do have to control the situation to get it because I have to get it somehow because everybody's entitled to some amount of it, obviously, because that's the way it works. So of course people are going to make rules when they're told that. But it's like that doesn't, they don't even know that that would make them unhappy to try to be more controlling in a situation. Because like people have unhappiness coming out of their ass and anxiety coming out of their ass sometimes in some cases. And a lot of it is because societally they're expected to check all these boxes. Like I have to get this much respect because that's how much everybody gets. And so then they have to control a situation and organize a situation more in order to make sure that they got it so that they can know for sure that they're a person. Because people are anxious. People get anxiety when they think they're not a person. And when they like them compared to somebody else, like, oh, I'm not a person the way that this person is a person. Like, am I not even a real person? Because I don't get like even the minimal amount of what you're supposed to, because everybody gets this minimal amount of either respect or love or talent or anxiety or anything. Like everybody is this, because anxiety can persist that way too, where and it can persist that way through media driven narratives or social media driven narratives that everybody's anxious or everybody's depressed. And then that goes to everybody to the point that everyone thinks they have to be some amount anxious or they're doing something wrong. Like it might be a prevailing idea, like anxiety. If anxiety is something that characterizes a time period or a generation, it can be so prevalent as anxiety almost is. It can be so prevalent that everybody thinks they need some of it or else they aren't. When it's like, there's got to be some people that aren't anxious. But it's kind of like the world is diluting it, diluting things enough that we think that people have to be anxious. Like that's something that I would think off the top of my head is like, well, everybody's anxious to some amount. But I mean, if you take it as a spectrum from anxiety to not anxiety, people fall on the spectrum. It's just that some people are not anxious, some people are not confident, but confidence, Jesus Christ, confidence is the same thing that I'm talking about, especially confidence, and that there are confident people and there are people that aren't confident. But the idea that at any given moment you can change your whole attitude in life to become a confident person just by invoking confidence and incantationing that into your mind enough to be like, no, now I am confident. The idea that you can change who you are instantaneously, this is characteristic of the harmful ideology of confidence, that the idea that it's like a fantasy that you get to become whoever you are at any given moment because anybody can be confident. People are psychos, I think that. I think people are psychos where they think that they can be confident. But it's like you can't, because you can see where that works, you can be confident. It can work for a day. It's just that by the next time you have to make yourself confident, if you're not confident in every situation. But what it does, it just takes away from people who are actually confident. Because we're acting as if there aren't confident people to some extent. But it's really just that the value of having inherent confidence is diminished in people who have it, because now everyone is confident. Everyone has the ability, and if you don't, you're doing something wrong. Like everybody is in the game of confidence now, and it's like, oh, you're a sinner if you're not confident because you're not strong. Like you can't be weak. There's no such thing as an inconfident person. You're just not doing enough. It's like thinking that thinking that you don't measure up, or you're too much of a sinner. That you you need to do more. You're not strong enough to be a confident person. Everybody's trying to be confident. We're all confident here, right? Everyone's trying to be that. And you need to get your confidence up when it's down. And why confidence specifically? that's so important. Confidence is so important. Like, confidence by itself is so important. But we're like in this game where we're like, we're in this game where we're like, oh, we found them. We found the confident people. Where are the confident people? Where are they? Oh, there they are. There's confidence. Like, there they are. Confidence. Oh, what confidence they have. There they are. Show us confidence. Now perform confidence for us, please. Now that we see that you're confident, there's a confidence person. There's a confident guy. Show it to us. It's like it replaces talent in some respects, or that people are to be celebrated. Or I'm just saying it's like a prevailing ideology that it's like, now we want to hear from the confident people. The confident people have authority. And where are they? Where are they among us? But it's just this matter of speaking where we become aware of the need for confidence, because confidence is this vital thing, right? But it like over the last 20 years, it's become really apparent all of a sudden what confidence does, the need for it, the way that it works. Like, we know the ins and outs of confidence more. We became intelligent to it. We became aware. We became knowledgeable. We are able to speak on it. We're able to communicate it. Like, we all of a sudden were like, oh, confidence, to the point that this time period is characterized by us frequently talking about the need for it. And it's whatever. And what that does is it just destroys the idea eventually. But every hag has their day in the sun. And in that analogy, confidence is a hag. But I'm saying confidence as an idea is going to reach some sort of peak of popularity, and we're enduring it. And we probably already passed it. But like, because people are using confident before, it's just that when popularly people use it across a nation or a world in their speech, then this reflects that it is a current idea. It's current, it is in circulation, it is moving, it is flowing. It is being spoken, bounce off each other, we're all saying it. Confidence. And it's just that eventually it destroys the idea, because an idea has a lifespan. We're just using up the potential of it, because confidence is a specific idea with borders, where at some point something becomes, at some point you are self-assured as opposed to confident. Like, self-assured is near the borders of confidence. I'm saying confidence has borders, so therefore as a definition is finite, has a lifespan, and we're just running roughshod over it like it is a finite commodity and we'll use it up. But like, it has a lifespan the same way people do. People peak somewhere in terms of intelligence and physical capability, and then they go back down, they get older. It has to do with energy. It has to do with, so it's just like the energy, the confidence energy really resonates with us at this time period for whatever reason. And good for confidence, for making it into our hearts and lives. And that's all that I wanted to say. There's respect. Be respectful to whoever. Be respectful. So it's like, I guess my position is that but it depends on where you're coming from. What's respect? Like, what's respect? You have to respect yourself. You have to, like, you can't respect everybody, is maybe what I'm saying. You can't respect everybody. I'm saying, that's my argument. Don't give into that everyone's worthy of respect. Like, but, and in the same token, don't lessen the impact of respect. Don't slap respect in the face. Respect. Respect it enough. People don't respect it. They don't. People don't respect. They think everybody gets the same amount. When it's an idea characterized by a speciality, that you did something worthy of respect. It's characterized by worth and differences and status. And like, it's characterized by differences. It's not the same. And to call it something other than that is to disrespect it. Respect. por favor, for you and your friends and for your family and for all people and all parties involved. And yep, and that's all. Thank you for listening to that.